Alrighty, happy Saturday Instagram family. My name is Kaejenn and I'm the founder of the Limitless Dentist. And if you're here for the first time on this page and wonder how you stumbled across here, firstly, welcome to the Limitless Dentist community. I'm a private practitioner dentist up in Darwin, Northern Territory in Australia, and I created this page for my fellow dental professionals and colleagues to be able to have provide some, mindset tools, but share my personal testimony of what's been some of the trials and tribulations of my own life and career, how I've overcome burnout myself. So if you are going through a tough time at the moment, I want to let you know that you're not alone in how you feel. But also share some of the practical tools and tips of what I have been applying in my life to really seek towards being a more productive and fulfilled dentist. Right. And today I'm super excited to have another guest speaker as part of Mental Health Month who we're going to learn from and hear her testimony. We're going to be learning from Dr Grace Sha. So, really looking forward to hearing from her and her thoughts and her pearls of wisdom. So we're going to go live, and if you guys, as you guys come in, feel free to Hey Grace, how are you?
Hi, Kaejenn.
Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you, but I can't see you right now.
You should be able to see me very soon.
Yeah.
Can you see me now?
We'll
Wonderful.
just wait for a bit. Maybe the phone takes a while.
That's okay. All good. It should show you two screens. It should be you on the top and me on the bottom, or should be two screens showing one
Yeah,
shot. Yeah.
that's all right. I'm obviously not as technologically advanced as yourself.
No,
I can still hear you. We can have this conversation still.
okay. No worries. But obviously, before I will get into it, I guess I will introduce you to my audience and my community, just in case anyone is not aware of the phenomenal work you do. And look, Dr. Grace Sha is a captivating speaker, author, and visionary founder of the Mental Wealth Institute. She's a natural storyteller with many life lessons to share. Grace's strength is to empower teams to reconnect and rediscover their passion for work. Using the roadmap from her book Mental Wealth, How to Journey from Burnout to Abundance, which she's releasing early 2024. Super excited for that. Grace's message will revitalize your life from surviving to thriving. Grace is a survivor of burnout who has triumphed over shocking adversities and challenges. Her story is one of resilience, adventure, and hope. And highlights of her journey include a trip to South Africa with Sir Richard Branson and volunteering in mental hospitals overseas. She's currently practicing in Brisbane. Dr. Grace Sha graduated as a top student of her year in the University of Melbourne in 2009, but she has worked as a sessional supervisor at the Griffith University School of Dentistry, as well as tutored students at the University of Melbourne. And look, I guess, if I kind of look at, I'm going to read out the rest of your bio because I want to really share the phenomenal work you're doing. I think it's so important because I really want to share what you've really taken as a non-cookie cutter approach to dentistry, which is what I love. So, she's a firm believer in prevention is better than a cure. Grace is a strong advocate for conservative dentistry and speaks about preventive healthcare, burnout prevention, and most importantly, positive workplace relationships. Her gentle and caring nature, as well as her special interest in mental wellness, has helped many anxious patients overcome their fears of coming to the dentist regularly. She is the current president of Southside Dental Study Group. She loves connecting with and mentoring younger health professionals and is a mentor in the ADA mentorship program. Beyond her clinical career, where she has the privilege of practicing healthcare with care, Grace is a leader passionate about good governance and rejuvenating organizational culture. Love that. A volunteer purposeful in serving with non-for-profits locally and overseas, and a creative entrepreneur who excels in diverse range of endeavors, including property investment, event productions, and management. So welcome, Grace, to this Instagram Live. Thank you for taking this time out of your very busy schedule to join me, by the way. I'm very, very grateful we could have this conversation.
Thank you for inviting me. And this is a long time coming, so I'm glad we can have this conversation now that things are a little bit calmer for me.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, I think that little bio really sums up what a phenomenal journey you've been through, I guess, in your own dental career and life, right? But if we maybe walk back way back to when you were maybe a new graduate and a recent graduate. Walk us through what was your dental journey like? And actually, I'm going to start with a bit of a my first question. I guess I'd love to know is what inspired you to go into dentistry in the first place?
Yeah, so I actually talk about this in my keynote just recently. I actually said in all my interviews that I chose medicine, like I chose dentistry over medicine because it is the most universal healthcare you can give because everyone has teeth and everyone needs good dental care. Whereas if I became a heart surgeon, maybe not all my friends and family would need help from me. But everyone needs to see the dentist at least once or twice a year. And I thought it was the best way if I wanted to join overseas short-term mission trips or volunteer or care for people I know. If I'm a dentist, I can look after everybody.
I love that. So cool. And I guess when you became a dentist, then, what was your journey like in the first, let's say, 3 to 5 years of your career? Were there any particular challenges that you encountered? And I would love to know as well. Feel free to share as transparently as you'd like about how you overcame and navigated those challenges as well.
Yeah. So I was obviously quite a high achiever growing up, which a lot of us dentists are. I was top of my year in both high school as well as uni. And, I had great expectations and I expected a lot from myself when I came out and joined the workforce. And my first job, it was actually really deflating because they didn't really care about me as a new grad and they didn't really nurture me. And it was kind of just thrown in the deep end and just start seeing patients as quickly as possible. So I actually left my first job really soon after starting it, with high hopes. And I then joined another group practice, which was had a better culture and more nurturing and more about like mentorship and letting me observe my colleagues. And I still have friends from that first job that I keep in touch now. Even like nurses that I've worked with back then, I still keep in touch with them. So that was really good. It was a bit disillusioning because I went into dentistry as a healthcare professional with very altruistic motivations, obviously wanting to go on overseas mission trips and volunteer, but that's not the reality in private health, is it? Because going through Melbourne Uni, when I did, we only saw public patients. So always our care was about the ultimate, treatment plan and what's best for the patient. The patient has no money issues to consider. But when you come out, you suddenly need to deal with whether people will pay, health fund issues, like bosses thinking about your earnings, whether you're busy enough, whether you're retaining patients, things that you never think about. That's all very money-minded. And I think for a lot of us caring people, that can be a little bit hard, especially when we're not taught it very well. And you also learn that, like, dentistry is not all about what good quality dentistry you do. It's actually a lot about people management, both in terms of relating to patients as well as with staff, with managers. There's so much dynamics and politics, and as people who study really hard our whole lives, maybe not enough emphasis is put on like the EQ aspect. So that's something that I've really had to learn and grow myself. And I'm advocating for that to be maybe taught more among CPDs and in unis to like learn about communication skill, positive workplace relationships, and being able to just relate to people better. It's good for your normal life as well, right? And you asked about what I went through as a new grad. A few years out, I started thinking about, what do I do next? Because when you're in medicine, like all my friends were in medicine because I went to Melbourne Uni to study, so I lived in college and most of my friends who were interstate were doing medicine. But then they have a progression path. So after they graduate, it's like internship and then residency and, they have something else to work towards and they have an award and certificate. And as high achievers, we're used to always, achieving something or doing something. What's the next thing to do? And when you're just a general dentist, you feel as if you're not quite enough, or you're not doing enough, or you haven't got a next goal if you're not opening a practice or specializing. So I was actually, a lot of my friends at the time were doing the exam to become a specialist, and I was seriously considering about it. I was talking to people about it because I had some opportunities as someone who ducks my ear that maybe I can get into certain specialities more straightforwardly. But then that's actually when my research supervisor from my final year of uni passed away. And I think that was a moment of when you really think about, like, why do you do what you do, and what's your motivation, and uh, like, to what end? Like, if I go back to the postgraduate room, is that really what I want? Like, to be, found dead on the weekend alone in the postgraduate room. Yeah. So yeah, that was a really big moment of my life. Yeah.
Wow. And I guess when you've made that decision then to not, let's say, venture into the specialist pathway, and made
Mm.
one of the things I know that you mentioned is that you did go through a bit of a burnout phase yourself.
Mm.
And obviously, whoever has been following my page knows that I share all the time about my own burnout journey, which happened, quite early in my career, which, was part of the reason why I was in such denial. But I guess if you're happy to share a little bit about that part of your life, what do you think led to your burnout, and when did it occur in your career, and how did it come about?
Yeah, so I don't think I realized that it's good I guess you burnt out at a stage of life where burnout is such a talked about thing, and mental health is such a big topic during COVID, right? I never learned about what actual, like, the word burnout means. Like, people use it all the time, but you don't look up the definition or what the real diagnosis is until much later. So when I look back now, and when I'm writing my book or giving talks about burnout, we actually realize burnout is a syndrome. It's not a mental illness, and it's basically chronic workplace stress that's poorly managed. So really, a lot of people go through that. It's a very universal thing to be stressed by your work. We're not made to love work as human beings, and so it's more about stress management and how do you manage that properly. And dentistry is a stressful job. Like, we're an engineer, we're a medical doctor, we're artists, we're perfectionists. We're working on tiny, teeny spaces in the mouth, right? And we are just wired to be perfectionistic and critical. And we're so critical of ourselves and critical of others. It's just a very stressful environment. We have to keep up with time management, we have to keep up with patient workload, and like also have to consider the finances if you're in the private sector as well. So there's a lot of things that are very stressful. So I did, I would say during that stage of my life when I was considering specializing, a lot of it is signs of burnout where, you're stressed and you're a bit disillusioned about your work, you're cynical. The three main key factors that characterizes burnout is the cynicism and being less efficient at work, and being tired all the time. And when we're stressed and lacking sleep, everyone's tired all the time, so that's an easy one to tick off. But yeah, I also went through a stage where I was like, oh yeah, am I really in dentistry for the right reasons? Everyone's like talking about like how to make more money, but we're in healthcare, and that seems to really clash in my head. And so I felt very cynical about our industry, or just healthcare industry in general. And yeah, and I felt like I wasn't enough. Like, I have all these accolades, but I feel like my life is not really fulfilling my full potential. And I think those are things that are, very characteristic of early burnout. And if that was sort of recognized, and then there's a sort of a plan in place to address that purposefully, then you can prevent it from snowballing into your life blowing up, which mine did. Yeah, so like, whilst burnout is not a mental health condition, it can lead to other, you know, mental illnesses or other symptoms that are a lot worse. But if we can actually talk about it early and raise awareness about it, then we can actually prevent more people from experiencing the negative effects of burnout on their career or their life.
Yeah, so true. And I really want to thank you for sharing that part of, because I tend to find that even though you and I are probably well versed in sharing vulnerably, it's always quite tough going back to that time because there is a remnant of that pain that we do savor, and it carries on with us in the sense that it reminds us, uh, as well, I count it as a blessing in the future. It's always a retrospect. But I really appreciate you sharing those words, because that was exactly how I felt when I went through burnout myself, was these questions of worthiness. Am I worthy of being a dentist? Or, do I is this my true potential? Is this all that's left for me to do? Is this it? When you went and realized, I guess, or came to the realization that things were not quite right, right? Because as you said, you were kind of experiencing, you didn't know because there wasn't a lot of awareness about it.
Mm.
What were some of the things you did to overcome that period of your life, and what did you lean into?
Yeah, so I had a few things that I did, and not realizing I was trying to address burnout. I was just trying to fulfill that void that not specializing was going to leave in my life, I guess. So yeah, it was more just, oh, what can I do to end the frustration or make myself feel like I'm achieving something? So I went on the overseas mission trip, and I ended up I approached an organization that was reputable, that my friends had been with, and did great work. And I got allocated on the mental health team. So I learned a lot about mental health because I was actually translating lectures for psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers, and giving CPDs in Asia to medical professionals in Asia. So yeah, like I learned a lot about myself and about mental health, and I also saw mental health patients during that trip. So I learned a lot from my teammates, and that really helped me as a person to be more empathetic. And when I came back, that became sort of a niche that a lot of my colleagues would refer patients to me that are more anxious, because I have the ability, I guess, to be empathetic and connect with people and really listen to them. And I'm able to see patients often without, yeah, I never actually use my like nitrous oxide certificate. Like, yes, I never use nitrous, I never use sedation. Yeah, it's all about people management, I feel. So yeah, that became a special interest of mine, I guess, for quite a while. And then I also did other education courses, like personal development courses. My husband at the time was an allied health professional, so we opened up clinics. So I actually set up a clinic from scratch. It's now a really huge chain. Yeah, and I'm not involved in it anymore, but I also, did a lot of business education for myself, and I also went into property development. So yeah, lots of different things, but I never actually stopped to actually address, like, why do I do what I do, and look at my motivations and focus on like the service part and showing myself grace and kindness, and also showing other people grace and kindness. So yeah, after a few years, actually, as you know, my life kind of blew up. So my ex-husband then locked me up in a psych ward and said that I had high functioning bipolar because I was behaving out of character, because I was doing all these courses, and obviously I changed as a person. I wasn't the same person as who he met or married anymore, and we didn't actually grow together, and that was the issue. So I had to go through quite a big process to clear my name. Police were involved. I had to go through mental health tribunal, which is a law court in the hospital, get second and third opinions to clear my name and be able to practice again with no restrictions, and yeah, clear up the diagnosis correctly.
Yeah, wow. And I think that part of your story is such a unique story. But I think what we're so grateful for is that outside of that, you were able to re-find that ambition. Because most people, if you were to just share that journey, would deter most people from wanting to even come back to the profession and give back, because after everything you've been through, and so I think it's phenomenal that you were able to overcome that period of your life, and so grateful that through your name was cleared and you were able to get back on track. But after that fact, when you were back to practicing, and after that moment of your life, um, I guess I would assume that you would see dentistry from a completely different perspective because of everything you've been through. And I know that one of the things you did was also, you founded
Mm.
the Mental Wealth Institute.
Mm.
I'd love to know, how did that come about? What was the inspiration behind that?
Well, Well, currently, the Mental Wealth Institute is just like a brand name that I practice out of for my speaking work and my book. And I'm thinking of doing more workshops and coaching work as well. I have done quite a few workshops already. So, yes, the brand name, but people seem to relate to me as a person more. So, right now, we're talking on my Dr. Grace Sha Instagram, and like my Facebook profile, my personal profiles are a lot more active than the mental wealth one. But yeah, mental wealth, why I picked that name is because people have this negative connotation about mental health. It's kind of like TMD and TMJ, right? Like people always go, I have TMJ, but that's actually just the joint. What you have is TMD, which is the disorder. So mental health is actually health, right? Like you actually are healthy, but people go, oh, I have mental health. What they mean is I have a mental disorder, or I have a mental illness, or a mental health condition. So I wanted to play on that word, I guess, and go mental health institute, mental wealth institute, because so many people in healthcare can become a bit confused and become money minded, or not realize that ultimately they chose healthcare because they want to care for people. And if you want to be wealthy or rich, there's a lot of different paths you can go down, and people can make a lot more money a lot quicker without having to go through all the pains of studying for healthcare and the types of hard work that we go through, compared to other corporate jobs. But yeah, I feel like wealth is also a word that people need to consider. Like, what does it mean to be wealthy? Because we see so many people who are actually financially wealthy actually do so poorly in their personal life, and they're so unhappy that they commit suicide. There's so many celebrities that everyone perceived to have a great life and great wealth are not happy, and actually are so unhappy that they would consider taking their own life, which is so devastating for not just them, but their family and the people that love them, or people who admire them as well. So yeah, so I looked into, what does wealth mean? Like, I really love like Morgan Housel's quote. I will find this quote so that I can quote it properly. Wealth is the ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want. So in none of that, it's about money. It's actually about freedom and joy and having that sense of fulfillment. And that's what I feel like, if you're actually mentally well and you go beyond just mental health, you're actually mentally wealthy. And that's why I picked that name for my book and my company.
Yeah, wow, fantastic. And I love how you've defined mental wealth for us, because that was going to be my next question. And I really love that quote you just shared there, because the way I perceive what you just read was, wealth is about having choices in life.
Mm.
And having the choices and options on the table to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want, as long as you want, which I love that. And, I'm so excited, for your, book to be released. And what I also love is that, another dentist champion who's talking about burnout and how to overcome burnout as well. I do want to also ask you a question, because, obviously one of your highlights of your journey so far is the fact that you got to spend some time in South Africa with Sir Richard Branson, which, anyone who is fortunate enough to spend time with Richard Branson, I haven't yet in my life, but I know that to get into his inner circle where you're able to have some either one-on-one time or a group time with him, you have to either be part of some phenomenal projects, or really shine in a way that allows you to get into his spotlight. So I guess I'd love to know, from that part of your life, because I think not many dentists have had the privilege to do that. What was that experience like, meeting Sir Richard Branson, and what did you learn and take away most from that particular part of your trip?
Mm. Yeah, I did want to acknowledge, like, you're called Limitless Dentist, right? And we were talking about, yeah, like wealth being that freedom and not limiting yourself. And I used to put myself in a box and go, I'm just a dentist. Like, I went to my high school reunion for all the duxes of the high school, And then everyone's like, oh, I'm the head of this, or I'm the board of that. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just a dentist. But then when I actually went on the overseas volunteer trips, I realized I'm not just a dentist. I have lots of transferable skills and I have many ways I can contribute. And it's about how you see yourself or how you define yourself and not limiting yourself. And I'm really grateful that my experience, like working in mental health wards, was able to, help me overcome that difficult time when I was locked up and trying to clear my name in the mental health ward. And I actually was blessed to be given the opportunity to join this trip with Sir Richard Branson 3 months after I was released from the psych ward, while I was still going through divorce and while I was still clearing my name with like APRA, So that was a really turbulent time of my life. But because I had all these like experiences and that mentality that I'm not just a dentist and I'm not just in the box, when I introduced myself to the people who were organizing, I didn't know they were organizing. I was just, not limiting myself and just being open to opportunities and connecting with people and just being genuine and being vulnerable and sharing my life. So, I literally just bumped into someone, met for the first time and told them, oh, I'm going through a really tough time. This is going on right now, but I do lots of things. I'm a dentist. I do property development. I run a business. And then they're like, oh, well, I have a friend who was a dentist before who actually does business coaching now. Would you like to catch up with him? And then so just one person introduced me to another. And then, they had a spot and they had it in mind. And I must have met some sort of requirement. So the question asked to me was actually, do you know who Richard Branson is? And I was like, I'm a loyal Virgin Velocity Gold member. Of course I know who Richard Branson is. And then they're like, would you like to go on some safaris with Richard Branson? It's like, is this a trick question? Like, yes, of course. So, it was actually 3 weeks out and I just booked my tickets and went. And, I was really blessed. Being there with people who also think outside the box and don't limit themselves. Like if you've seen videos of Richard Branson, he's, definitely not like a typical in the box kind of guy, but very humble and very relaxed. And I think that really reassured me that I was doing the right thing, that it was okay. Like if certain people in my life were limiting me and wanted to put me in the box and saying that I'm crazy just because I'm doing things that are different, like being able to be reassured that what you're doing is fine and there are other people like you and other people who just support you and, are able to love you unconditionally and are able to see the good in you. That was a really precious moment for me. And, I was able to actually share a little bit about what happened to me with Richard. And he actually said, oh, your story is really worth sharing. You should write a book. And that's actually where I got my first idea that I should probably write a book. I've never thought about that. That wasn't even on my radar to ever consider myself an author. I never thought I was a good writer, to be honest. But that's something I've been thinking about and working on. And it took me a long time, obviously, like about 4 years before I actually started the book writing process because I wanted to tell it right. I didn't want it to just be a victim story. I wanted to actually add value and not be all about me, but about what can I use my experience to help others with. And it takes time to actually reflect and see the good in what's happened and learn from that.
Yeah, wow. I think that's such a phenomenal, what I glean from that particular instance of your life is it reminds me that some of the greatest opportunity comes through some of the greatest adversity we face as well. And I think, I truly believe that, when one door closes, another door or a window opens as well, and a window of opportunity. And I think it's so cool that in the midst of that turbulent time, you were able to really, have some very pivotal moments. I'd say is a great word to use because having a chance to have and I love that your book now was that seed was sown by Sir Richard Branson and then you cultivated that idea and now you're about to launch the book as well. So I'd love to know, what was the obviously, we know what inspired the book, but and without giving away too much as well, but I guess, what's the book writing process like? Because I'm sure there's, many dentists who are watching this going, I didn't realize I could maybe become an author or even write a book, and that's so cool. Like, what's the book writing process like, and what's your journey been like, leading towards your release of your book, which I'm so excited for, and I can't wait to get a copy when it comes out on bookstores and stuff.
Yeah. I think there's many different ways you can go about it. Like I've had friends who have written manuscripts for years and years before they publish, and there's the traditional way of trying to get a publisher, like sending manuscripts to different people. I'm choosing the self-publishing path, or sort of, guided self-publishing. So yeah, I have, like publishers that I'm working with, but I'm sort of self-funding the process and getting people to edit and, designing my own covers and things like that. So, yeah, so that part, there's a lot of different pathways you can go down. And if anyone ever wants to write a book, I guess feel free to reach out and I can introduce you to different people. I have a lot of friends in my network that actually help people with that guided pathway. And But the most important part is about your content, right? And for me, my content, like initially I never, after Richard said that to me, I was like, yeah, I'm going to write a book, but I'm not a writer. So then I thought about, oh, maybe I should make a movie, because like everyone says my story is quite dramatic, like lots of highs and lows, and lots of funny stories from the psych ward, which I share, and like my keynotes and stuff. And yeah, so it's like I thought, oh, yeah, maybe a movie or a TV series would be good. So I actually went into extras acting to find out more about that industry. And then I realized, oh, to actually make a movie or a TV series, like it's a hard industry and you really need a book first, and you need to provide value to people for people to be interested in your story, because they don't just make a movie out of anybody. Like they make it when you actually are somebody, right? And like you've got some value and people actually care about your story. So yeah, so there's been a lot of like thinking and soul searching and thinking about what's the best way to go about it, and also how to share it so that people get the right message. Because I think my story can be twisted to how other people want to see their own lives as well, or what people want to take out of it. And sometimes that's not the message I want to share. So that's why in the end, I realized, like, especially during COVID, that burnout message, that's actually very applicable to most people, and especially to healthcare professionals, because we know, like, such a high percentage of healthcare professionals suffer burnout, and 1 in 6 dentists, considered suicide in the previous 12 months, that Matt Hopcroft did in his article, and yeah, so I think it's an important area that really can help our healthcare system become better. And that's why I chose to write about that. So yeah, the book has a little bit of my story, and I use some parts of my life as example, but it's not about my life. It's not about me, because it's all about what I can do to help others. So I talk about burnout prevention from 2 different aspects, because the title is How to Journey from Burnout to Abundance. So yeah, like defining what wealth and abundance is, and then also considering burnout prevention from an individual perspective. So I talk about, aspects like gratitude and rest, and learning how to recharge and accept the circumstances that you can't change, and also courage to change the things that you can change, and wisdom to know the difference, and how you can actually connect with people truly, and become an encourager among your network, but also be around people who can encourage you, and how to find those people. So yeah, so that there's that individual aspect, and then there's the organizational aspect, which I do the workshops on right now. So yeah, so actually doing recently I went and talked to a dental clinic about this, actually, the positive workplace relationships. So conflict resolution, which I have a lot of experience with, and talking about the difference between reconciliation and forgiveness, because we aim for reconciliation. That's such a talked about word in Australia, but not done very well. But while I was in South Africa, it was actually also a charity trip. So I was blessed to be in the same boardroom as Nelson Mandela's wife, Graça Machel. And
Wow.
you visit a lot of these, the sites like the women's prison where Nelson Mandela and other political um, prisoners were locked up in Constitutional Hill, which is now their parliament. And you hear the stories, and you go to these monuments of people whose brother was shot, and like just for being part of a protest against racism. But these people are able to forgive. And like if you look at the way that South Africa has done reconciliation when Nelson Mandela became president, that's actually real, like real forgiveness and real attempts for reconciliation. So yeah, like when you look at that and then you look at our Western, like what we're suffering day to day or our workplace conflict, really it's perspective, right? There's nothing you can't overcome if both people put their minds to it and are willing to admit their part and reconcile. So yeah, I talk about that sort of stuff for workplaces, how to communicate healthily, like between your work colleagues, like being able to be friends with people you work with. And, I'm still blessed to have friends who assisted me from back when I was a new grad. And I really, truly still can call them friends and still go and, just visit them or stay with them when I'm in their city. So yeah, being able to form those connections at your workplace, because it's your work family. You actually spend more time with people at work than with your own family if you're working a full-time job. So I think those parts are very important, and that's what I want to cover, both in my book and in the workshops that I hold.
Yeah, phenomenal. That I love that. And I guess as well, what I love about like, so if we go from where you started and then how you transition into all these different areas outside of clinical dentistry, like you said, property development, entrepreneurship, and also some of the other work you do, speaking on a stage and keynote speaking. What is your, like, if we talk about your life now,
Mm.
you know, what does your life currently look like? Are you still practicing? Like, how many days a week do you practice? And then, yeah, what does your typical week look like for Dr. Grace Sha?
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people have that question, like, are you still a dentist? I am still a dentist, so I'm very blessed to be working part-time with some of my friends. So I work usually 2 to 2.5 days a week as a dentist because I really actually still love dentistry. I love healthcare, and I still have patients who have seen me since they're like in grade 2 and they're in uni now, and they still come and see me. So yeah, I have my practice because I still really enjoy that general dentistry and being able to see people every 6 months and watch families grow and improve people's preventive health care. And there's another aspect to it now as well, because I used to actually really hide the other parts of my life. And I felt somehow like ashamed or feel like if I'm telling people I'm not fully invested in my dental career, that means I'm a bad dentist. But actually, I realize now, even though I work part-time, I tell patients that I'm just available this day or this day. People actually really respect that. And I've even had patients use me as an example for their like high schoolers who are deciding what to study. They're like, look, Dr. Grace can do like this and this. So it's not like you choose one career and you have to stick with it, right? Like you can actually still have different hobbies and have different things. So yeah, I've done different things in my spare time, like produced a drama for like a Christian organization, which had like 350 people attend. So yeah, so you can actually like just not limit yourself and still have a balanced life. So yeah, I do the dentistry for half a week, and then the other half is very freestyle. So I've got the property projects, which I don't run myself. I usually joint venture with other people, or yeah, I have managers on the projects if we have something going on. So I'm always in the property game to have some sort of passive income as well. So I feel like when you have some sort of passive income, you don't need to worry about money when you're actually doing your healthcare job. And that's really important to actually be able to healthcare with care. That's what I always say. Like you're first and foremost caring for the people, and money will follow. Like no one is going to starve being a dentist, honestly. Like even if you work part time. So yeah, just being able to like care for people and do what's right for the patient, not what's right for your wallet. Yeah, so I have the property projects, and then other times I might have speaking engagements on. I write my book when I have spare time, and I'm also doing a board internship. So I am through a not-for-profit, being mentored about good governance, being able to sit in boardrooms with amazing people from different industries and actually learn from them. Because I think as a healthcare professional, we think we're really clever and we can do everything. But when I actually got invited to join the board and I went to a board meeting, I actually felt really out of my depth, and I wasn't sure whether or not what we were doing as a group of healthcare professionals was actually best practice or what was best for the organization. So that's why I wanted to actually learn first. So yeah, whilst I do have like leadership positions like the Southside presidency in the study club, you know, those sort of things, that's easy. That's sort of just about connecting with people. Yeah, always thinking about serving. How can I serve the community, do more continuing education that will be of value, connect younger generation with older generation. But I'm also like, so whilst I'm helping others, I also want to learn myself and be helped and be mentored. So I'm really blessed to be learning from people much more experienced in governance. And then, yeah, I'll just see what opportunities come up from there. So, yeah, very freestyle in the other half of my week.
I think that's so cool. And I think for anyone who is watching this live at the moment and wondering what else is out there apart from dentistry, you know, hopefully Dr. Grace's testimony in her life is a great example of what it looks like to be curious and just explore. And touching on about how you said, you know, people who traditionally hide parts of themselves in when they're in a particular box or wear a particular hat, as they say. I had heard from somewhere, and I think it also came from Sir Richard Branson too, something about, you know, I think someone asked me, like, you do so many things, you know, how do you, like, how does it, do you change who you are or how you speak or whatever, depending on the hat you're wearing? And I think Sir Richard Branson said, you know, something along the lines, and I might, you know, I'm going to be paraphrasing him here, but he said something along the lines of, you know, everything I do is an extension of who I am,
Mm.
and an extension of who I am based on my core values and what's important to me. And I think I found that quite profound, and I think that you're a really good example of that as well, because, you know, as much as like a dentist is an extension as a way of serving the community from a healthcare perspective, as an extension of who you are based on your core values of servitude or community or providing value to people. Your property development group or your property development ventures are going to be, you know, an extension of who you are in terms of adding value to the marketplace. And you know, what you do in keynote speaking and helping people overcome their challenges is again an extension to who you are. So I really love that when, you know, and I share this with people, and I'm sure you do the same too, which is always when anyone ever asks me, you know, what to do next, I think actually what is the wrong question to start with. It's actually why. And then understanding like what is important to you and who are you and what are your core values. And the minute you know that foundation of your core values, everything else makes sense, or in terms of how you easily make more decisions about a yes or a no to an opportunity, which is also a key to success I've learned, is making sure it's in alignment to those core values, and you're not, you know, trying to do something that is not in alignment to your core values. And that's, I guess, where imposter syndrome comes across as well, which you know, many people, not just dentists, feel as well. But yeah, I think it's so phenomenal that, you know, you are such a great testimony across those areas. And I guess I'd love to ask you, what are you excited about in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years? I know you said you would love to. So apart from the book, that's going to be a stepping stone to hopefully a TV series or a movie, which I can't wait for that stepping stone, because I think speaking and manifesting those dreams is so, so important. But outside of that kind of dream for your story and things to go to the next level in that part, what else are you excited about in the future?
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of aspects to what you just said. I wanted to first acknowledge what you said about like the why, right? Like Simon Sinek, you know, famously has the golden circle. So like knowing your why and then thinking about the how and then the what will just come. And yeah, Richard Branson says this as well, like, you know, do what you're passionate about and then money and success will just follow. So he always follows his passions rather than thinking about what should I do to make the most money. And, you know, when you follow your passions, if you're all about actually serving people, like other than the why, also think about the who, like who are you serving and like who are you doing it for? When you're thinking actually beyond yourself and not just thinking what's in it for me, things will just work out, I find. Yeah, whereas when you're always thinking about yourself first and foremost, usually that's when you might find it struggles or it doesn't resonate with people. So yeah, I think knowing that is a big part of it, and that's something that I've you know, have to learn as well over time. And also, I think you brought up another point. Sorry, yeah, like actually like embracing all the different parts of yourself and what's like who you are in the different circumstances. I used to have different Facebook profiles. I had like one for property people, one for the dental people, and then one for this. But yeah, it actually took me quite a few years to just accept myself and be okay with sharing all parts of myself and being vulnerable with people, that this is who I am. And you know, like, yeah, just being okay that some people might judge you, and that's okay. And they're not your people, and the people who love and support you will do that no matter what you're doing. So yeah, so I think now I've tried to condense it just to one Facebook profile now, and I share all different aspects of myself with my different friends. But of course, you do modify how you interact with people, like how I talk in the clinic to patients would not be how I talk on site with a tradie who's trying to pee on the neighbor's wall in front of me, you know,
Yeah.
like, so yeah, I have different personas, but who I am as a person and what I'm about and who I'm about serving, that's still the same no matter what. And in terms of what I'm looking forward to, I really, you know, I used to be a real planner and I used to be very organized, but I think since going through what I've been through, I've realized there's no point in planning as much. You plan, like as in you have things that you would like to do and you work towards it, and everything you do is whether it's adding to that goal or not. So I plan in terms of that, but I don't actually structure like I must achieve this by this date. You know, like I did do that. At one point this year, I had a set date. You know, I had a big keynote, as you know, on Wednesday to 180 people, and it was a very precious opportunity. And I really wanted my book to be there and available in print on the day for these 180 people. But I ended up having to actually catch myself and go, who am I doing it for? I actually caught up with some friends and I shared with them like how I was struggling. And yeah, I'm really blessed to have friends who know they can just speak the truth to me and be hard on me. And they're like, so who are you trying to do that for? Like, who are you trying to please? Is it for yourself? Like, I'm like, oh yeah, because people have pre-bought my book already. And they're like, I think any friends who have pre-purchased your book will be okay if you felt like you need to delay the book from coming out if you're not happy with the final result. So I'm really glad I actually chose to do that, like just let down my pride and be okay that it hasn't met the deadline, because I feel like my content now is going to be a lot better. So yeah, actually I had to pause my book writing process even though I was at like 90%. I was ready to send it to the editors. I actually caught myself and just said, no, I'm not going to hand it in. I want to actually focus on my talks and do the best that I can there, and then go back and review again because I wasn't happy with how it was structured. So actually, after doing all these talks and workshops the last few months, I have actually reviewed my content. I'm now going to go back to it and work on it with the deadline being next year instead. Yeah, so I think that's something that I've got planned, that's actually concrete. And I really do want to get that out because I feel like people have been looking forward to the book, and now I'm confident about what value would be best for my audience. I can revisit that. Other than that, I really am, yeah, just seeing what opportunities come up because I have to finish the board internship, which finishes middle of next year, and then I'll see what opportunities come with that, like when I get offered any board positions. Yeah, a lot of it is out of your control. Like I'm currently on the, you know, there's a few people that have been nominated for the ADAQ Council, and I'm one of those people, and that's being voted through. So that process is out of my control. If that happens, then I'll, be able to serve on the ADAQ Council and use my governance knowledge to be able to help our industry. But if it doesn't happen, that's okay as well, because I'm sure there'll be other opportunities. So I think I always strive for certain goals or see what opportunities I can, take up to be able to be of value and use my skills, but don't be too attached to the result and don't be too devastated if it doesn't happen, because I feel like, everything happens for a reason. And you just be grateful for what you're given and control what you can control and do the best that you can, and then leave the rest up to God. Yeah.
I love that. And I think you spoke of that about, the whole concept of leading on faith and, no matter what kind of faith discipline you subscribe to, but more importantly, you really shared a big nugget there about, being like really relishing the control of things you can't control. And there was a phenomenal mindset that you just shared in that moment, which was you have equipped yourself with a skill set and you can serve in any opportunity of a board should it arise, whether it's ADAQ Council, which, I personally hope that, you do get elected, because then I get to work with you more closely on that front, within the ADA circles. But, I love that mindset where you know that you will be able to serve whatever opportunity that looks like. And I think having an understanding and being having that confidence in who you are and what you are and everything you stand for allows you to then just pivot as necessary. And I think that's how we overcome, some of the imposter syndrome stuff that always creeps in. I really appreciate you sharing so transparently, even at this point, delaying, the book launch and not hitting the deadlines, and how you're navigating that emotionally and leaning into your network of support. I think that's so, so important. So I guess, we've had a phenomenal conversation today, and thank you so much for sharing, different, facets and parts of your life and who you are. But, if people want to find out more about what you do, Grace, and the work you do, or maybe even book you as a keynote speaker, because who knows who watches this kind of live, where can they find you? And because you mentioned the book, if people want to pre-buy your book before it's released, where can people find that as well?
Yeah. So, as I said, I do have the company name Mental Wealth Institute, but most of my content now is currently on Dr. Grace Sha. So, Dr. DR and then Grace, Grace, Sha, my last name, SHA. So I have a website, drgracesha.com, and on LinkedIn, I'm under Dr. Grace Sha as well. I have a professional profile on Facebook, so that's under Grace Sha. And this Instagram as well. So I'm very contactable across all of those. On my website, there will be, downloadables. You can find my speaker's bio there of the keynote topics that I cover, workshops that I cover, so people can make an inquiry that way. And I also have my book pre-order. People can always pre-order through that website as well. And next year, obviously, I will be publicizing as the book moves through all the different production stages, when the official book launch will be. And I hope to, make it a really big deal and, offer some value to my network then. So if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram or connect with me on LinkedIn, then you'll hear about all the updates. I will also like to acknowledge that I have interviewed Kaejenn quite a few months ago. I'm not quite as organized as him to do these lives. So, I have a series on YouTube and podcasts coming out, so I will publicize that as well. That's my next project now that the big keynote is done. So whilst I'm writing my book, I'll start uploading these interviews with Kaejenn and with Matt Hopcraft and a few of my friends who do amazing things in their respective industries outside of dentistry. And they all share about their journey from burnout to a life of abundance and freedom and doing better in their life. So I hope that will sort of give people the permission actually to be vulnerable, to share their story and know that doesn't define them, but in fact makes them better and gives them more hope and opportunity. So so that's the next thing that will come out, I guess, as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. And those of you who are not currently following Dr. Grace Sha on any of her platforms, make sure you go to her platform and go and follow and like and subscribe to everything she does, because what I love about the work that we get to do is really collaborate and connect and really share multiple testimonies, right? Because I think I said to you privately, Grace, that why I'm so passionate about really collaborating with other colleagues is because everyone's story is unique, and the more stories we share and the more testimonies we share, people are going to experience or take away different things from different people's testimonies. And when we can show enough different testimonies of what is possible outside of a clinical dental career, it just really opens up the world of opportunities for everyone, and they don't have to pigeonhole themselves into just a clinical dentist. They can do so much more. And I truly believe, Grace, that you are a limitless dentist. If anyone ever wonders what the definition of a limitless dentist is, it's just someone who is willing to embark on a journey to be the best versions of themselves, which then allows them to be the best dentist they can be and serve their patients or their communities however way to their highest level. But finally, again, I want to thank you, Grace, for joining me for this phenomenal conversation, and I look forward to hopefully the next time. So, obviously I'll post the links of how people can reach you, and more importantly, looking forward for the podcast or that YouTube video to come out, and most importantly, excited for the book launch. We would definitely probably do another live to help you with that book launch campaign. I would love to, get a copy and then share that around and get people to get around that, because it's those important projects and milestones, I feel that, the better we can have. What I love about what you've shared about the book is it sounds like a practical tool guide outside of stories and sharing. So, more tool guides that we can get out there so people can apply these mindsets and tools in their lives to really get towards abundance, I think is going to be so transformational. So thank you again, Grace, for joining us. And if anyone is, if you missed this live, that's okay. We'll be posting this across the socials, and look forward to the next time we get to catch up, Grace.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Kaejenn. And I love the work that you do to be able to connect people, and the way that you are not competitive, and, that you just support and love everyone, and, try to collaborate. And that's the we want in more healthcare professionals. So thank you very much as well.
No worries. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, Grace, and everyone else on Instagram. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you for another live training or Instagram live next time. Catch you around. See ya.
Thank you.